My brothers and sisters in the Lord, welcome back to the Catholic Citizen, episode 10, where today we're covering farmland right here in the great state of Ohio. We're covering President Donald Trump, the impeachment, as well as big tech censorship in just a second. Friends, welcome back to the show. It's always great to have you here at the Catholic Citizen, week in and week out, as we cover the news from a Catholic perspective, from this biased Catholic perspective, nonetheless. But before we jump into today's show, where we're talking about a whole myriad of different topics, I want to make sure that you know that you can help support us here at Awaken Catholic. Please go to awakencatholic.org/donate. We need your help to keep this show and other great shows from Awaken Catholic on the air. Another great show, favorite of mine, is the Five Guys Show, or the men's show, as we call it here at Awaken Catholic. So please join us in supporting this great venture we have, bringing the truth to you through beauty and love. All right, secondly, the app is still available. Go to awakenapp.io. You can download the Awaken app. There's a lot of great features, and coming up, there's going to be a lot of interactive portals on the app where we can talk a little bit more about politics, about faith, religion, whatever it may be. Lastly, here at the Catholic Citizen, we're proudly sponsored by Casabella Cleaning. If you have any needs when it comes to just your home, say you've got 5 kids running around the house, you need a little help cleaning. I've got 3 kids and we need help cleaning. Go to Casabella. They can help you with your home cleaning, or if you have a commercial business that you need help cleaning as well, they stick to making sure all the little facets of your business or home are clean. Please go to CasabellaCleaning.info today for help. All right, I got to get that website down. Nonetheless, let's jump into today's show. Friends, there's just always so much going on in the news, and I'm trying to deplug myself a little bit through this Exodus 90 program, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later in the show. And I think it is good that we deplug a little bit. But just some interesting news that I wanted to cover first, and that is National Public Radio actually had a really interesting article about farmland in the United States. It is called American Soil is Increasingly in Foreign-Owned Hands, basically. Ohio, like Texas, has no restrictions on how much foreign land can be owned by a foreign country. And nearly 500,000 acres of prime farmland are held by foreign-owned entities. In the northwestern corner of the states, just below Toledo, where we're at right here, companies from the Netherlands alone have purchased 64,000 acres for wind farms. Now, is it just me, or does it seem a bad thing that foreign countries can own so much land right here in the United States, including right here in the great state of Ohio? I don't want the Netherlands owning land here in the United States of America for their wind farms or for anything else, because countries like China are also buying up land right here in the United States of America. So please call your representatives and tell them that we need to pass legislation not allowing these countries to own so much farmland right here in the United States. I mean, imagine all the implications of that if there's a global famine or there's a global war or something of that nature, and all these countries own this farmland in the United States of America. It seems like a pretty dangerous thing to me, and I'm not sure why I'm just finding out about it, but thankfully NPR had the article, and I direct you to go check that out. Now, secondly, this week, President Trump became the first sitting president in the history of the United States of America to be impeached twice by the House of Representatives. Now, in all sense and purposes, it doesn't look like he's going to be impeached by the Senate. However, that could change as the Senate turns into Democratic control here in just a week or so. But he has been impeached for inciting insurrection, which, if you don't know what that term means, is the violent uprising against the government. Now, 2 really important questions that we have to ask ourselves right now is, number 1, is he guilty of insurrection? Is he guilty of inciting a mob to go up the Capitol, take over the Capitol, and do who knows what? Number 2, is impeachment the appropriate step in this particular circumstance? And then lastly, I want to look at the show a little bit outside of the impeachment question. Should the big tech companies, should they be censoring the president of the United States? Twitter, Facebook, all banned President Trump for life right now, as far as we can tell. YouTube also banned President Trump. There's been 20,000 conservative accounts that have been banned from these platforms. And the conservative platform Parler has been basically shut down, taken off the app stores of Google and Amazon. So they're basically not able to function right now. So big tech has stepped in and said, look, these groups are inciting violence. We need to take a role here in protecting the American public. Now, we're going to get to the absolute insane hypocrisy when it comes to these companies doing this, but that's where we're at right now as a country. All right, so first, is President Trump guilty of inciting a mob? If you watched last week's show, I said that President Trump needs to be careful with his words. He's the president of the United States of America. And so the words coming out of his mouth matter. And you have an already upset electorate, an already upset group of individuals who have come to the Capitol. And some of the words that he used, I wouldn't have used. And, saying like, we're going to fight like hell and we're not going to take this country back by weakness. All those things may be true, but, maybe in that context, not the best place to use it. But you have to go back and read everything that he said. Okay, now here's a key part of his speech that day. He said, "We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for the integrity of the elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country. Now, again, the president said things like fight like hell and, be strong and things of that nature. But he also did say, we're going to march over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Okay. So you also can't dismiss that fact either. So is someone like this who says this in his speech right before all these things take place, is he inciting a mob? It seemed like that's going to be really hard to prove in the court of law or in the court of the Senate. Look, take, Democratic senators, for example, in this past year when they were talking about fighting against President Trump's Supreme Court nominees. Senator Richard Blumenthal, who said, I'm going to fight like hell against Trump's Supreme Court nominee. Now, does anybody think that senator was talking about, raising fisticuffs on the Senate floor? There's plenty of examples. Diane Waters comes to mind as, another senator who's talked about, getting in Trump supporters' faces. There's plenty of cases where we could call out individuals who have been inciting violence in many ways. Some people who supported and said that, the Black Lives Matter protests, when they became violent, when there was the looting and stuff, was excusing that type of violence. So we have to just simply be consistent here. That's all I'm saying. So even if you believe, as I do, that President Trump chose some of his words poorly at the time, is he still guilty of insurrection or inciting a mob? As much as I dislike his attitude, some of his tweets, and the way that he's behaved himself after losing the election in some ways, he's not guilty of the high crimes by which he's been committed. Now, again, more evidence may come out later, but the second question then, is impeachment the appropriate step here? The Wall Street Journal's Jeffrey Scott Shapiro, who has taken issues with President Trump's speech, said that, look, as a prosecutor, the president didn't mention violence, much less provoke or incite it. So this is someone who doesn't like the president, but as a prosecutor, looking at the facts, says he didn't provoke or incite violence. Law professor Jonathan Turley, also no fan of the 45th president of the United States, says that this impeachment is just Pelosi's personal vendetta against the president, and it's going to gut the impeachment standard and free speech. So he's pointing out what we can all see, that the very first week that this president was elected, the House Democrats wanted to impeach him. And so they went about that and they did that. And then President Trump was exonerated from that impeachment. So he's got 1 week left in office. And what are they doing again? They're trying to impeach him. So, is it appropriate that they're impeaching him right now? Sure, censure him. Sure, have things decrying how he's, used his language in incorrect ways, whatever it may be. But the man is leaving office in 7 days. So that by the time this impeachment trial will take place, impeachment, which is used to remove someone from office, he will not be in office anymore. But yet they're still moving forward with this impeachment trial. So, President-elect Joe Biden, who's going to be president in about 7 days again, he wants to move the country forward. He wants to unite the country. Is moving forward and uniting the country really going to take place if you're impeaching the former president in the first 100 days that you're in office? He needs to stand up and tell the Congress, look, this is not what I want to be focused on. President Trump, for all his language he used in 2016, talking about, putting Hillary Clinton in jail, did not go after her to prosecute her and make sure she was in jail. Okay. In the same way, if President Joe Biden wants to move the country forward, he needs to lead and not say, well, it's up to the Congress. I want my hands off. Okay. Lead President-elect Joe Biden. All right. Now, outside of the impeachment issue, Trump here has been banned from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And here's a few of my issues with that. Number one, who is choosing to doing the censoring? Who's choosing to say that, well, it's President Trump that needs to be censored. He needs to be taken off of these platforms. It's kind of reminds me of who are the fact checkers? You're on social media now and you post a story and you have these fact checks that come up. I say, well, actually, this is not completely true, or it's half true, or there's some truth in it, whatever it may be. Well, who's checking the fact checkers? Because often some of these stories are in fact true. But the people who are seeing these stories don't like them, or they don't like their point of view. And so they're fact checking them. So censoring often on these media or tech companies, it is so incredibly selective. So you have all these conservative media sites being taken down, or their followers becoming less on Twitter or whatever it may be, suddenly or magically. They lose 100,000 followers, or their tweets aren't being retweeted. But yet at the same time, child pornography allowed to run rampant all over the internet, and we can't censor that. It's just incredibly ludicrous that, some things need to be censored, but other things don't need to be censored. So who's doing the censoring and why? And here's the major point with this. The hypocrisy of the individuals who they're choosing to censor. Okay? This is much bigger than President Donald Trump. This is much bigger than, some conservative voices or some people that are saying are inciting violence and things of that nature. Because, folks, this is not about violence. If this was about violence, if this was about dangerous words that they were worried or fearful about, then how in the world is the Ayatollah Khamenei from Iran, the supreme leader there, how does he still have an active Twitter account? Friends, Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, has openly tweeted his desire to destroy Israel, calling it a cancerous growth that must be uprooted and destroyed. Most recently, he's implied that the United States of America could be sharing COVID-19 vaccines abroad in order to contaminate other nations. So, you have an active Twitter account who's called for the destruction of an entire nation, Israel, calling them a cancerous growth. But yeah, not dangerous. Let's allow him to continue to tweet, right? No hypocrisy here. Let's move along. All right, well, let's look at another account. How about Zabullah Muhammad? Now you'd be like, who's Zabullah Muhammad? Well, you might not know him, but you might know the organization he stands for. He's the representative of the Taliban. The Taliban, who, is an organization who've gone far beyond violent words. They've committed heinous acts of terror in the name of radical Islam, killing thousands of innocent people, including United States citizens and American troops. Now, his Twitter account has 147,000 followers, and there is not one fact check on his Twitter account. So, all the fact checks that, conservative outlets and medias get, and the president, let's ban him. But the leader of the Taliban, who's actually killed Americans, no ban, no fact check. Let's allow him to tweet. You've got to be kidding me, folks. So again, this is not about silencing just President Trump because they think he's dangerous. This is ultimately about silencing conservatives, silencing a point of view that they don't like. That's the reality that we're facing here. And look, I don't want to incite people to violence. I know that some of my words might cause anger, and well, it should. Sometimes we have to be angry. Now, it's where we generate and move that anger, which is important. We don't move it towards violence. We move it towards peaceful and strong action to bring about a country that we all desire and that we all want, to wake people up, our neighbors, our family members, to the reality of what is taking place here. Our liberal friends, our progressive family members, to invite them to think about this from a critical point of view. Do they want the silencing of free thought, of free speech? Is that really the type of country that we want? Because that's where we're heading. Look, we can't get to the truth. I mean, dialogue, what does that word mean? Okay? Logos, that's the word. It's the truth. Dia, it's about the conversation. It's about seeking the truth together. And we can't have true dialogue unless we allow people to think and to talk. Now, look, there's some organizations, that I concretely disagree with, okay? Black Lives Matter and some of their approaches to family, to gender issues, I fundamentally disagree with their thoughts on the family and gender issues. But I don't think they should be censored. Allow their thoughts to be sent out there. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about their views on these issues. It's in that dialogue, in that conversation, that truth can come about, okay? But that's not the country we're living in. You might say, well, these leaders you've mentioned, Peter, they're overseas. They're individuals that, they're not important right here for the United States of America, even though they're killing United States citizens and calling for destructions of countries. Well, it's right here in our country too, folks. So you might say these individuals or President Trump's words are inciting violence, and that's another reason we have to censor him. Well, what about Kathy Griffin? Kathy Griffin, the comedian, so-called comedian, who went on Twitter and posted a picture where she had this severed, bloody head, a depiction of a severed, bloody head of President Trump in her hands, saying that we need to kill the President of the United States. Was she censored? No, not censored. Not violating Twitter's policy of glorification of violence. So you can hold the 45th President of the United States, his head severed, a picture of it. It wasn't even a picture, it was like a doll, a big doll of the president, severed and blood dripping down, calling for the president's death. But that doesn't violate Twitter's glorification of violence. You got to be kidding me. I mean, the hypocrisy here is just astounding. And I don't even know what to say anymore. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. All right, so lastly, here's one thing I do know what to say. Let's recap the show just real quick. One, we need our country back, and we need to stop selling it to other countries. So someone please look into this and make sure the Netherlands stops buying farmland here in Northwest Ohio. Number two, the President Trump should not be impeached at this time. I don't think his words were perfect. I don't think his actions have been perfect. But my word, if we want to move the country forward, why are we impeaching someone who's literally leaving office in 7 days, who has come out with multiple videos now, calling for peaceful transition of power? It's insane. And why are we censoring him from Facebook and Twitter and all these other accounts when we're allowing leaders of other countries who have literally killed Americans to continue tweeting out a hate and falsehood? But lastly, I'm doing an Exodus 90 program with other men in Northwest Ohio here. In Exodus 90, it's a program which invites men just to be the men that they've been called to be. So to fast, to work out more, to get better sleep, to pray a lot more, to put down social media, the news, avoid any unnecessary news consumption. It's really hard when your job is actually to look at these things and everything, and you run a show on it. But nonetheless, it's been really great for me just stepping away from these things. And it's made me really reflect upon some of my attitude and behavior and my actions myself. And I was looking at some statistics the other day. The average person actually spends 2 hours a day on social media. And on other media, the news and computer and TV, they spend 4 to 6 hours. So a total of 6 to 8 hours, the average person is on media today. That same average person spends about 20 minutes in prayer or with the Word of God a week. So 4 to 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours of media every single day. and then 20 minutes a week of the Word of God. My friends, no wonder the world is in the condition that it is. No wonder we don't have peace. No wonder we don't have level-headed voices, common sense prevailing in our country today. I invite you, watch my show, but more than watch my show. If my show or anything else is distracting you from picking up the Word of God and spending some time with the Lord, then please, it's time to reevaluate, because we need men and women of valor today. We need men and women of holiness. We need men and women striving after Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is the same today as he was yesterday, as he will be forever. He is the rock by which we must cling today. And I don't know what's going to happen in this next administration, what's going to happen with the silencing of conservative voices. I mean, already I've had a show when I did the Catholic vote here on socialism, it was censored by YouTube. So if they're censoring me, little old Pete Range in Northwest Ohio, you can imagine what might be the steps in the years to come. But we can have hope, we can have faith, and we can have belief that Jesus Christ will win the day. Jesus Christ will truly win the day. We might have to suffer. We indeed might have to make some hard choices. But you know what? They can never take away our faith in the one God who has come into the world, and the darkness has not overcome him. In him, in the Lord, I place my trust. I invite you to do the same. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on The Catholic Citizen.
This show and all media on Awaken Catholic is made possible by the Awaken Nation and the Hallow app. The Awaken Nation is a community of people like you who support all things Awaken for as cheap as a cup of coffee a week and get access to exclusive content. Learn more by visiting awakencatholic.org/donate. Hallow is the only audio-guided Catholic prayer app focused on contemplative prayer and traditional Catholic meditation such as Lectio Divina, Daily Examen, and the Rosary. We here at Awaken all use Hallow every day and love it. To learn more or give it a try, visit hallow.app/awaken.